Alright guys, here we go, iCue Clinic, episode 2. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most requested things on all the pool pages all over the internet is how to draw the cue ball back like the pro players. This is something that takes a long time to master. It takes a lot of great imagery and thinking and being able to visualize what you want to do with the cue ball. And the pro players make this look so easy, but it's quite challenging to learn. It's one of the things I struggled with the most trying to learn how to cue the ball correctly, and I'm hoping I can help you guys alleviate some of your problems and stress you've been having at the table. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is what type of spin is needed to create a draw shot. You need to generate backspin by hitting with a level cue below the equator of the cue ball. Any strike you make that is below the equator of the cue ball will cause the ball to generate backspin. Only the top portion of your tip will actually come into contact with the cue ball. This is a huge thing you have to wrap your mind around. On most shots, you're going to be hitting the center of your tip to the cue ball, but on draw shots, it's only the top portion that's connecting. So you have to think, how low can you hit on the cue ball before you go underneath the ball entirely and cause it to scoop off of the table? And I'm showing in this video section the kind of approach you're going to have and where the tip actually hits when it goes into motion. So this kind of simulates how the cue tip fits to the ball, and that's where you get your strike and you generate the backspin from hitting that low. I think the largest struggle in learning the draw shot is that you're aiming low, but your stroke has a flaw in it that causes your tip to come in higher than desired. And I really struggled with this when I was developing a stroke, and whenever I teach the draw shot in person, I normally notice a stroke flaw, and that's why they're getting more of a stop shot rather than drawing the ball back. And I talked about where the tip needs to be, where you have to come in and fit the top of the tip to the bottom of the ball. But if you start there but don't end there, and your tip actually raises up, all you're going to do is consistently get stop shots, which is frustrating because you don't understand that you're really hitting high but you're aiming low, and it kind of confuses your brain because you're not hitting the shots like you think you are. I see a lot of these other tutorials on YouTube talking about how you can drag the tip on the felt to kind of prove how low you can hit. And if you have any problems with your stroke, all this is going to do is put you way too low on the cue ball, and you're going to kind of come in and pop the ball off the table, because any shot that the tip goes underneath the curvature of the cue ball is going to cause an illegal shot, which is a scoop, and this scoop will cause the cue ball to pop off of the table, and this is not what you want because you're not going to get a draw shot, and this is just bad practice in general. I wanted to show a couple successful draw shots, aiming at 6 o'clock on the iCue training ball with a nice follow through, smooth acceleration, and a level stroke. You can get really smooth, quick draw that grabs the table and zips the ball on backwards. Having a strong follow through is the first thing that's important to getting a great draw shot. I use a quarter here to set how far the cue tip should travel after contact with the cue ball. And this is a great drill you can do to force yourself to follow through. If you notice that you're not cueing to the quarter or the coin you leave on the table, then you're not successfully getting enough follow through. You need follow through to create a good draw and backspin action. If you don't have a good follow through and no backspin is applied, the ball will eventually turn into forward momentum and not be backspin. So you really need to make sure you get a nice follow through. So what happens when you don't get enough follow through to the cue ball? Well, you create poke. And a poke might have accurate tip placement, but there's no definitive action that generates spin. So while the cue ball might start to roll backwards, once that backspin rolls out, since there's barely any applied, it turns into a forward momentum, and after that forward momentum is applied, it just turns into a follow shot. Here's another great example where there just isn't enough backspin applied, And when I hit this ball, the backspin travels to the object ball, but there's not enough after contact to spin this ball backwards. So really all you're getting is a stop shot, and this isn't what you're trying to achieve. While this is a useful shot to know, it is not the goal of this lesson. Another common mistake I see is a jacked up shot where a player will raise the butt of their cue and put the tip kind of at an angle to the table. All this will achieve is a scoop shot, and it's a great way if you really want to throw the ball off the table, but you will not get any good consistent draw jacking your arm up and shooting the cue ball this way. Now at the beginning of this tutorial, I show a ton of pro players using spin to maneuver around the table. And I want to talk about their thought process and their thinking behind how they can control the draw. So you can control the draw by your follow through, how high or how low you hit the ball, and how much speed you provide the ball. So for your follow through, that helps you create a tremendous amount of spin. As we saw earlier, if you poke at the ball, you get less spin, less revolutions, and the less revolutions you get means the ball will eventually gain forward momentum and roll forward. The more revolutions backwards, it will hit the object ball and then spin back. Now you can fine tune this so you can have soft draws or full draws just on your follow through, and you can hit low or high. Now sometimes you'll see a pro player and they'll come in and they'll absolutely shoot low on this ball, or it looks low, and they actually kind of hit in the center. If they choke up a little bit and give a stun draw, they can actually hit this with a lot of power. And when they hit this ball with power, since they're hitting closer to the middle of the equator, more close to a stop shot, since they're hitting above the 6 and in the center, this gives them a stun draw where it hits, kind of stuns off the object ball, and then rolls back. So if you need to use power to kind of firmly plant the ball, but just back it up a few inches, hitting kind of in the middle zone is what they might do. And that also kind of couples with the speed factor, is if you're hitting in the middle, you can give it more speed and get less draw. If you're hitting low and you give it more speed, you get more draw. And if you want to hit nice and slow, you can hit 6 o'clock and get the same effect as like a stun draw with power. You can back it up a few inches and just hit it nice and slow. So it's all kind of a style preference, but there's so many different variables that go into actually controlling the draw, and you can kind of find your own style. I'm kind of more of like a soft roller. So I'm 6 o'clock and I just want to roll this back just like a couple inches. So that one right there, I just rolled back a few inches, but I could have powered it. So like a power stop would be like a stun draw. So if I set another one of the stun draw up here, I'll hit more stun draw. And that one rolls a little bit farther because I hit it with a little bit more power. And as you can see on the iCue, I kind of hit right here on this 7 and 5. So I like to slow roll because my tip kind of naturally goes down at an angle and I don't want to overdraw by accident. So I hope these tips have helped you. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can get more iCue Clinic videos, and I appreciate your time.